Hi everybody, Dan Illman, Matt Bernier. The DRFBets race of the day for Wednesday, September the 26th, race number 1 at Belmont. We kick off the early pick 5 with New York bred optional claimers. It's a race and it's a bet that you can play with a new DRFBets account. Sign up at bets.drf.com and receive a 300% deposit match. Here's the field, only a field of 5, but fairly evenly matched. They're running for a $70,000 purse. It's a 1-turn mile and a 16th, and you can access free formulator past performances for this race on the Race of the Day event page at drf.com. Download them, handicap along with us. We'll take the field in post-position order, beginning with the morning line favorite. The number 1 Might Be, who just destroyed a field of non-winners of one other than foes in her most recent start. I mean, she ran away and hid, and she did it by running hard all the way, Matt.
Yeah, she really did. She opened up, like you say, went right to the front and just buried the field, won by 9 lengths. There's a couple of concerns, though, with a horse like this. First and foremost, she's been gone since the middle of June, and we've said it a number of times. You've said, you don't just put good horses away or horses that are in form. There's got to be a reason that she's been gone for a little while. They chose to bypass all of Saratoga, although she worked out up there. So you've got to wonder why she was away. And then also that field that she beat that day, as impressive as she was, they haven't really come back to do a heck of a lot. So I think if you look at it from those standpoints, you can poke some holes. I'm looking at it from a pace standpoint, and I say if you're Dylan Davis, you've got one way to go, and I think she's controlling speed.
Timeform US completely agrees with your assessment. As we throw up the pace projector, they've got the 1 Might Be in front, and in a short field, that's the place to be. It's now up to Dylan to maybe get this horse to relax just a little bit off the 3-month freshening. And you're right, it is a little bit of a concern, especially when you see gap after gap in the work tab. But this filly does her best running when she gets this exact pace situation, and she's going to be tough to beat. She's probably the horse to catch and beat. The number 2 is Rachel's Blue Moon, and to me she's a little bit interesting. The one and only time she tried a 1-turn route was 2 starts back. It was her career best performance by a long way. Now, I thought she was aided by an inside speed-friendly track that day, but in her most recent start, the Fleet Indian, I thought that was a severe inside speed-favoring track, and this horse was 3-4 wide all the way around the track. So aided by the track 2 back, hurt by the track last time, she'll be a decent price here for a good trainer in Jimmy Jergens.
And I don't know if you agree, but I also feel like that Fleet Indian, boy, they really tried to stretch her out, and I don't think that's what she wants to do. I think this is more her game. 1 turn. I know the distance isn't, all that different, going from a mile and 8 to a mile and 16th, but there was a tremendous difference in a 1-turn race as opposed to 2 turns. I think this is what she wants to do. She's run well at Belmont, and I agree with you. If she gets something close to that run 2 starts back, and I know it was outright on the lead, but I think she has the ability to sit just off. You get something close to that at a square price, I think she's interesting.
The number 3, Cause We Are Loyal, was a stakes winner as a 2-year-old at Saratoga. Hasn't really gotten much better this year, however, for trainer Mark Henning, and she was also in the Fleet Indian, where she was dismissed as a 66-1 chance. She pressed the pace outside of Take Charge Aubrey, the 2-path, not as good as the rail, but she just was found wanting turning into the stretch. Now, maybe a mile and an 1/8 was a little bit too far, but I'm beginning to wonder if she's ever going to crack that 70 buyer plateau, and the buyer par for this race is a 79.
Especially through 9 lifetime starts, you would have needed to see some sort of improvement, I would imagine, at this point to really look at her as a contender. She's 12-1 on the morning line. Someone needs to be the longest shot in here. She deserves to be the longest shot. Like you say, she's never cracked a 70, and I think it's going to take a low to mid 80 to win.
I have a similar feeling about the 4, Take Charge Aubrey, as I do about the 2, Rachel's Blue Moon. I really liked her race 2 starts back, going 7 furlongs at Saratoga. I think it was a legitimately good race, and I believe that 86 buyer, even though it's kind of far and away the outlier of her lifetime past performances. Bruce Levine wheeled her back in 11 days, stretched her all the way out to a mile and an 1/8 in the Fleet Indian, and a mile and an 1/8 I think was just too far. Jose Ortiz did everything right. He found the gold rail. He got to the lead. The track almost carried Take Charge Aubrey home, but she was found wanting in the last 50 yards. Now, you can look at it one of 2 ways and say, that last race, the only reason she's a stakes-placed horse right now is because she was aided by the bias. I think she's a little bit better than that. I like her cutting back in distance. I think she can stay close to Might Be.
Really, that's the only thing that made me a little bit concerned is where's she going to be positioned, because that turn back in distance, I agree. I think this is what she wants to do. And I'm not going to just say that she was carried in the Fleet Indian. I think she's got a little bit of ability. That run 2 starts back at 7/8. That makes me think that she is ready to take that big step forward. And also, keep in mind, draw a line through that Finger Lakes race, the New York Oaks. Prior to that, you've got that giant maiden score at Belmont at this configuration. So I think she fits in here really well. My only concern is there a scenario where she's going to be the one that has to go and do the chasing. I would imagine someone else has a little bit more early speed, but if she's too far back and they allow that inside horse to just get out there all by her lonesome, is Take Charge Aubrey going to have too much to do too late?
Maybe the key is to try to turn it into a match race if you don't expect anyone else to be a factor in here, and maybe use your recency advantage to your advantage. Cotton Candy Cutie completes this short field. Now, Cotton Candy Cutie was last seen way back on March 31st, and I thought she ran quite well in a little restricted stakes race, the Sis City. The winner of that race, Frosty Ann, like Cotton Candy Cutie, is trained by Rudy Rodriguez, and Cotton Candy Cutie pressed that horse throughout. All that horse has done since that race is win her next 5 starts with Beyer speed figures between 80 and 84, and I believe she's something on a 7-race win streak. This is the winningest horse in the race with a little bit of tactical speed, but check out this formulator fact, Matt. Rudy doesn't do well with these kind of horses off 4 to 6 month layoffs, 0 for 21 on dirt over the past 5 years.
Yeah, and I think you combine that with the fact that you have all these workouts, and you're telling me there wasn't any race between then and now that you could have run her in, or there wasn't a position that you found that fit. It's just an instance to me where I do wonder if she's going to need a race before we see her best. And just from a timing standpoint, I wonder if her best is going to come back at Aqueduct. I feel like that's where she's done some of her best running. Not to say that we're running at a time at the Belmont meet, but we kind of are. We're getting to that point where you got to start looking ahead to moving over. I wonder if there's a scenario where she runs well enough here coming off the bench. She needs one. She's tightened up, and she fires in that next start at Aqueduct.
She's pretty consistent. She's hit the board in her last 8 dirt races, but I think you make a very good point about Aqueduct. She really found herself there last year, and maybe Rudy's just trying to get her into fitness for winter racing. Let's take a look at our top picks for the opener, kicking off the early pick 5 at Belmont on Wednesday. You think Might Be has a tremendous pace advantage. I kind of agree with you. I liked Take Charge Aubrey's race 2 starts back, and while she might have been helped by the bias last time out, I kind of agree with your assessment. I think she's talented, and she's done it going this 1-turn distance in the past.
But the way that you sort of laid it out possibly for Take Charge Aubrey, I think that could be the way that she turns the tables on Might Be, where she's the one that says, you know what, we've got recency over this horse, and let's call a spade a spade. Might Be, her races off of the bench, they haven't been her best. Usually she needs a race before you see her really fire. I think it's in a scenario where you just take the race to Might Be a little bit earlier, and you know what? Perhaps it cooks your own goose as well and it sets up for someone else, but I think that's the best opportunity for Take Charge Aubrey to try to turn the tables, because the tactical advantage for me with Might Be, it just might be too much to overcome. 1-4.
Matt's going 1-4. I'm going 4-1 in the opener at Belmont on Wednesday, kicking off the early pick 5. Bet it with a new DRFBets account and the 300% deposit match that goes along with it. Sign up at bets.drf.com. Approximate post time for the opener at beautiful Belmont Park on Wednesday, 1:30 Eastern. Good luck.